Hello and welcome to Alfie Ordinary's Living Legends, the show where we'll be getting to know some of the most celebrated drag performers from past, present and future. I'm your host, Alfie Ordinary, and I'll be sitting down with UK drag royalty to talk big gigs, big wigs, and what it really means to be a living legend. And speaking of living legends, with 18 years of drag under her girdle, today's guest is the queen of fucking everything herself, Holestar. Hello, Holestar. How are you?
Hello, darling. Thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. All the better for seeing you. You look absolutely stunning. Look at me. I'm lost for words at your gorgeous beauty. I love this little pop of neon that's coming out there. It's cheeky. I like it. No, but you've been in the drag industry doing drag for 18 years. I want to know how it all started. We're starting at the very beginning, which is a very good place to start. And you told me that it was a certain reveal moment in a certain Rocky Horror Picture Show that kicked it off for you. Am I right?
Yeah, I was 12 and I was watching it on a black and white TV screen, late night, should have been asleep. Parents next door in an army house, very thin walls, so I had it on very, very low. And I just wanted to watch this thing, and it was late night, Channel 4, I think it was Channel 4. And there's these people clacking about, and I was like, this is fun, okay, this is kind of, dark, macabre kind of thing going on. And then Tim Curry as Frankenfurter comes down the elevator, walks up the stage and goes, boom. And I was like, that's my first love. Right there, my first love. And it would just change my whole perception of what it was to be larger than life, I suppose, because I'd seen people be larger than life in theatrical ways like Shirley Bassey and things like that, and the grand dames of 40s Hollywood and things like that. But this was someone that had no gender, and it was just like, whoa, what am I seeing? This is incredible. It's just a gorgeous moment of opening myself. Before I even realised I was queer, it was just like a shabam moment.
Well, it really presented queer people and they were all having a good time, And I think even, like you said, before you knew you were queer, before I knew I was queer, and something about it really sat with me. And it still does, and I think lots of people have had that experience. It might not necessarily be the Rocky Horror Show, it might be something else.
Glee or whatever.
Glee.
Whatever.
So you were 12 years old when you saw the Rocky Horror Show, but you didn't start drag straight away after that. Well, not 12 years old, but you actually went and joined the army, didn't you? Can you tell me more about that?
It was pure desperation. I left school with no qualifications at all because I discovered sex, drugs and rock and roll quite young. Left home at 16. Having a lovely time, fantastic. And then one day woke up and realised that I needed to have some sort of job to be an adult, to grow up. And so I went from taking lots of drugs and partying pretty hard to joining the army. Literally overnight,
right?
Which was very bizarre. It was just like I needed that discipline. It was like I needed a job and they'll take anyone. So I just went. And the first year I was there, you become very green, they call it, because you go in as a unique snowflake and they break you all down. So you go in as a unique, wonderful individual with your own emotions, thoughts, creative ideas. And all of a sudden you all got to have this same goal. You're working towards this. You are going to attack these people and, defend this, defend what. And you get this whole queen and country kind of mentality. But luckily after a year, the back of my head was starting to go, no, she's not who you are. And so I used to go down to the naffy in like feather boas and just run around and be crazy and just annoy everyone. And after 2 years, I was medically discharged anyway. But it was the right time because I'd seen a lot of shit and it was weird and it was a horrible industry where, at the time, this was the mid-90s, and they just amalgamated training women with men, and they didn't know how to treat the women, and we were having to do the same stuff. I'm a big girl, I can carry it, I was fine. But for a lot of people, it was really damaging, and it's a really toxic environment, very white, very homophobic, very just one way of thinking. But I think I learned discipline, self-discipline through that. Even though my father was in the army, I hated the army because of my crap childhood. It did make me go, nah, this is not who I want to be. And I had to go through that to learn that. And when you're bullied as a child, you think this is going to be my life forever and this is all I'm going to ever know. And I remember one time there was this corporal who was standing in my face just screaming at me. And it was a drill command that I got wrong. Do it again, do it again, do it again in front of everybody. And I was just shitting myself. And if something in my head went, actually, I'm not the dickhead, you're the dickhead. And I had to stand there and take it quietly. But first time in my life, I internalised it as, I'm better than this. I'm not going to be bullied anymore. And I haven't since. And I'm a very strong character and aggressive and assertive and I always have been. But it was going through the army to realise that actually no one is better than me. No one is stronger than me. Everyone is their own person and should be treated as such. And not just this machine where we're under control by other people. It's like...
I think there's something really powerful in being able to identify like, oh, in this moment, I'm not the problem.
Yeah. And I was 18 when this happened and I was bullied since the age of 7. So I had all this time of being bullied by people and then just having that moment going, no, you're the dickhead.
Yeah, and you mentioned homophobia within the army. Did you identify as a queer person while you were
No,
in the
because
army?
my father was very army. He was very homophobic, very openly homophobic. So I grew up with those messages that it was wrong. And so I drove it down and, you know, I was very... This is the weird thing. In the army, there are a lot of gay women. And at the time, it was still technically illegal to be gay in the army.
Oh, yeah.
There were people that I know that were kicked out because they were gay and got caught or for whatever reason.
Like a survival thing, you physically couldn't.
But I wasn't out to myself then. That's the
I
thing.
see.
I'd driven down so much, and the training in the army just makes you hate yourself, and it's very negative. And it wasn't until I left the army that I was like, hang on, I'm free now. I can do what the hell I want. And a friend of mine, he was coming out at the same kind of time as being bi, and we were both like, okay, we'll both be bi. Yeah. And this is a small town. This is in Hereford. It's a very small town. And we kind of came out together, and Hammy's full-blown gay. And I'm now, I'd say pansexual. I don't have any particular preference. I like people across the gender spectrum. So it was really weird just going through that and coming out quite late, because now younger people have the luxury, I suppose, of coming out younger and younger. Which is amazing to see. I'm so happy to see that, which people of my generations and generations before didn't have that luxury. So yeah, it was just a very strange thing. My father, this is the funny thing, I told my mother, and I could see when I told her, across her face was like, no grandchildren. But she said, you know, until you've got someone to bring home, let's just keep it from your father. I was like, okay, fine, I'll respect that. And I was just finishing my degree, and I was home at Easter, and he said, you know, what are you going to do when you leave college? And I said, well, I've recently become a professional dominatrix. And he was like, okay, we'll talk about that later. And he said, okay, but, you know, what are you going to do for money? Well, I'll be doing that. It's, you know, it helps me out. I said, you know what? We're in the same ballpark. I'm also queer. So I was expecting this showdown, get out of my house, da-da-da-da. My father, who I grew up with these negative messages about being gay, and all he said was, I always thought you were a bit fruity. And I was like, really? That's it?
And was that the end of it?
And he just said, as long as you're happy.
Oh.
And I was like, of all the things, you know, for years, he wasn't aware of that going in me and suppressing who I was. And he, you know, when I had a long-term partner, he always said, oh, I think you might be this. Oh, it doesn't matter. What are you now? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who I'm with. You're happy for me regardless, right? Yes. So stop questioning it. It's just what it is.
So you left the army and you said you did a degree. You went to art school, didn't you?
I went to art school. A friend, the same friend,
Yeah.
We came out together. He was doing a course in photography at a local college. And I thought that'd be a blag, that'd be a lol. Something to do, because I'm now unemployed, you know, I'm back to square one. I've got to find somewhere to live and earn some money or do something with my life. And so I blagged my way onto the course and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just taking pictures and they were terrible. And this one tutor said, I think you're not like a photographer. There's something about you that's different. He saw the weirdness in me and he said, go to the library and look at these people who use art but are photographers. And I was like, okay, cool.
I think there's probably something quite freeing about like the way you really owned the fact that you didn't fit into this box that they wanted to put you in and this box in the army that they wanted to put you in. And so it allowed you to go and do whatever you wanted. And you then moved to Vienna, didn't you?
That's where I started doing drag, was when I was in Vienna. The Life Ball, I was there as a dominatrix on the door, just spanking people and the after party just keeps on going. Yeah. And I found this bicycle and I was riding around the dance floor on this bicycle, ringing my bell, just kicking people out the way. And this DJ was like, who the hell's that? And we got chatting. And Henry, and he said, oh, I want you to come and MC for me. I was like, eh? And so we did that for a lol and for free vodka and just getting drunk, having a lovely camp all the time. And like, oh, you better dance, so I'm going to beat you up. Stupid. Foolishness. And then one day I started to sing. And the next day he called me up. He was like, you were singing last night. I was like, I wasn't. I don't remember. He said, we're listening to the tape now. You're singing. I was like, am I? Okay, fine. And so the next time I performed with them, I had this idea about gender. So my artwork was very much informed about sex and sexuality and BDSM and gender and these areas in between. So I'm doing these gigs for Vodka as a dom, and the artwork was thinking more about gender and my own gender identity. I started thinking, well, hang about, well, maybe I can merge this together. This is like a way to showcase or workshop the idea, I suppose. Let's take that idea of what it is to be a drag queen, this super uber woman, over the top, camp, insane, and reclaim it to the female body. And so I did it. I just thought, sod it. And a lot of people I spoke to at the time were like, you can't be a drag queen, you're a woman, dear. And I was like, who says? Who says? And that was it. I just did it. And I remember I was walking down the stairs and the DJ was introduced. Oh, here she comes down the stairs. What is she wearing? It was a hot mess.
What were you wearing?
Oh my goodness. I was wearing a blue, two blue boas, the cheapest ones I could. Two, wrap them on my head. Like that was my look for a couple of years. Right. I didn't wear wigs at all. It was just this blue turban wrapped round like a microphone, and some silver tinsy fancy dress. The makeup was lines. I had no idea. I had no drag mother. There was no YouTube tutorials back then. It was just go for it. Drawing lines on my face and just seeing what happens, really. And it kind of worked. People liked it. It was supposed to be just an idea. It was supposed to be just an art project. I wanted to do like black area, a spotlight, and me lip syncing to Shirley Bassey. That was the initial plan as a performance piece. And 18 years later, I'm still doing it.
So it sounds like you really kind of developed what you do and your style and your identity as a drag queen in Vienna, and then you moved to London. Mm-hmm. How was the transition between that? Did you find the London drag scene welcoming?
Thing is, in Vienna, I did really well. I travelled around Central Europe. I was working in very straight clubs. So I was making good money, but it was boring as hell. So I moved to London to give myself a bit more freedom, but I had to start again at the beginning. So you're knocking on doors going, and this is before social media. It was MySpace days. So, show my age. Woo! So it was a lot of contacting people on there and trying to find which kind of spaces I might work in, because I wanted to change what I was doing. I was MC. I'm not really... And I'm good at it, but I haven't done it for years. It was just one of those things I did. I wanted to change the way I performed and see other areas of performance, because I didn't go to drama school, so I wanted to explore other ways of being this creature. So knocking on doors, banging, jumping through hoops. I'll do this gig for free. It took a while. Luckily, there were people who were like, okay, yeah, cool. A lot of people didn't like it. A lot of times, there were clubs that I performed in and people were like, oh, yeah, great. And then they found out that I had a vulva. They were horrified. It was almost like, oh, well, I don't like it now. It's like, this is my point that I always come back to. Are you entertained?
Yeah.
What's here or here is not anyone's business. Are you entertained? Were you entertained? So why has it changed? Because you now know that I'm not a man in a dress. So that went on for quite a while until I found, I suppose, my tribe.
Yeah.
So I was working out in Soho. There were people that accepted me, fine. And then I discovered people like Johnny Woo and the whole Bistro Tech crew and everyone in East London. And that's where I found, people that were like, okay, we don't care.
Yeah.
It's not important.
East London is obviously notorious for having a more alternative aspect of drag. Places like the Glory, which are around now, obviously weren't around when you were there, but they welcome all performers of all types of drag. It might not just be a show, it's a shared experience that everyone, it's a community, it's a home, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you found a bit of a home in East London, and you went with Johnny Woo and the likes to Glastonbury, didn't you? Tell us about that.
So that was 2007, and it was the first gay space at a festival in the UK. This is crazy.
That is huge. How did it, those things when you look back and you go, no, that's not the right date. Surely it would have been before that.
There was no
first dedicated
people.
Gay space.
Yeah, there were gay people at the festival spaces, but there was not one space that was purely gay-owned, gay-run.
And so was it a case of where it was long overdue and people really needed it, and so...
I think it was the right time. It really was. So it was a mix of Block 9, Stephen Gideon, and Horse Meat Disco, and All Us Mad Lunatics from East London.
It was called the New York Down Low, wasn't
New
it?
York City Down Low. Yeah. And back in the day, it was a tiny little thing. It was one little narrow black corridor with some cages and a dark room. And we made jokes that Kevin Spacey was walking around with his dog. He might have been,
He might have been.
I think that was a rumour, but, you know. And the setting, the sets they build are incredible. So it was we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea. It just rained the whole weekend. But it's probably the best weekend of my life. We just laughed, and it was a community. Yeah. And there was Johnny Woo, John Sizzle, Rhiannon Styles, Gateau Chocolat, myself, Lisa Lee, Rosella, Suppository Spelling, just coming together and being ridiculous twats in tights in a field. And there was no lighting on the stage, but we still got on that tiny stage and gave it our all.
Yeah.
And all these straight people at the beginning were like, what the fuck is going on? And by the end of it, they loved it because they told their friends, and people would then tell their other friends. And now they've got the whole field. Like Block 9 has got this whole field. Whoa. And it is the place to go. Like the Down Low is the place to go for the disco. And it's amazing. It's an amazing memory to have. I'm happy that I was part of it.
This led to something happening called Dressed as a Girl, which was a documentary that you produced. Tell us more about that.
So I think it was was it the second or the third? No, it must have been the second year. And usually on the Saturday night going to Sunday morning, after the Down Low was finished at like 6 a.m, we'd all go up to the Stone Circle and just be ridiculous without the crowds and just having to entertain them. We're entertaining each other. And it was just watching all this carnage going on around me, and I was thinking, this is amazing. Why is no one filming this? This needs to be documented. We didn't have smartphones in our hands back then. There wasn't camera phones like they are now. I thought someone needs to document this. And I approached Colin Rothbart, who's the director, and said, I think this could be something. And so initially I was the producer, co-founder, but I'm not a producer. I am an ideas person. I'm great. I'm full of ideas, but it just didn't happen. So we were doing fundraising things that Arts Council kind of laughed at me. And then we kind of got it was supposed to be a year in the life. My vision was a year in the life of these people at the Down Low. My initial idea was Welcome to the Down Low, but the Down Low people didn't want us to use that name. Then it was going to be Ring Them Bells, Liza Minnelli's song, which we always perform at the end of Glastonbury. And it went through all these different names, and eventually it was Dressed as a Girl. I stepped away from production because I had a meltdown and a bit of a breakdown. So luckily, Chris Amos came on board and World of Wonder came on board, and it ended up being like 7 years of filming.
It was, yeah.
So the year in the life didn't happen. It was watching, and for some of the stories in the documentary, it needed that time because we have, especially Amber's story, which is gorgeous, her transition, just going, you know, how, and now she's living her best life. And I love her so much. And yeah, we premiered at the BFI. That was amazing. It sold out the BFI for like 4 screenings. It's been to lots of international festivals. We went to LA to DragCon. World of Wonder flew us over, which was interesting. Just seeing, us, East London lunatics. Nobody tucks. Nobody does anything perfect like the Drag Race girls. We're a bunch of fraggles having a good time.
Oh my God.
So we get there and everyone's perfect, and the contour and everything is, made for TV. It's pageantry, because American style of drag is very pageant based, whereas British drag has got such a rich heritage of different styles of drag.
Oh, absolutely.
So they didn't know how to get on board with us, and we were just, we felt like 3 days of this craziness. Oh my God. And speaking to girls, and because it is a very young fan base now, and girls are watching it, and everyone's watching it. It's straight people are loving it, which is good in some ways. It's very, very good to have straight people part of our world. Yeah,
or at least to experience it. To watch, even from a distance.
Enjoy it. Yeah. But unfortunately, they come with this now, that show has created an expectation of what drag is. So I'll do gigs and people come up to me and go, well, why don't you look like her? And why you? It's like, because I'm an entertainer. My job for me, my end result is not this, how I look, it's the entertainment.
Drag Race has done a lot of great things, I think, for queer people by putting queer people on television. There are families that sit down and watch it. There are kids that watch it that feel connected. I guess that Rocky Horror moment, where they go, "These are my people. I identify with that person." But what it also does is creates an unrealistic expectation of drag. So there are a huge group of people that think that drag is on telly and it's this makeup and it's this hair and it's this expensive and it's this. And my experience of drag is very different. Drag queens host bingo and drag queens are on stage for an hour, you know, singing, like you said, a couple of bum notes. It doesn't matter. People are entertained.
Drag is just fun and expression and enjoyment and giving back to an audience. And I think Drag Race has a huge responsibility to represent all those people of all backgrounds. But as we all know, it's a well-produced TV show. And sometimes the fandom doesn't recognise that as just a TV show. They take it very seriously, and so do we. So I think we're all due that openness a little bit more, I think.
Absolutely. Now, you spoke about you being in a male-dominated industry, whether that's the army, whether that's in drag, and I can see a lot of resilience and maybe even a stubbornness where you're like, yeah, come on, let's do it, which I absolutely admire and respect. And this paid off in 2015. You were awarded the Best Drag Act Award at the London Cabaret Awards, which is incredible. Congratulations for a start. How was that?
It was amazing. Because when I got longlisted, it was like, great, thank you. When I got shortlisted, and I was like, well, I'm never going to win, but that was a great nod.
Yeah.
And we went to Café de Paris, and they had a nice ceremony there, and I just went for a lol and a bit. I keep saying, I hate the word lol, but I keep saying that.
For a lol.
For a lol.
Is there a free bar?
There wasn't a free bar.
Damn bastards.
You'd think there would be, but no. So we sat around the tables, and my category came up, and they announced the winner, and it was me. And my friends go, get up, you twat. And I'm like, what? Stumbled on the stage, said a load of old nonsense. One of the other, because there's 3 shortlisted people. So one of them came up to me and gave me a big kiss and said, you've had a great year, well done, you worked really hard. The other one went round and bitched to the whole room, a drag queen, it can't be a woman can't be a drag queen, I can't believe a woman, blah, 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 bitch. Yes, told everyone in the room. It got back to me. I just thought, and then the same person went to a venue afterwards and carried on bitching about me. But that person from the venue, the manager, got in contact with me a week later, thought, well, she's clearly pissed her off. There must be something good about her. So he goes, do you want to come and perform for me? Okay, dear.
Ooh.
And so I'm still working with that person now. He's since moved to another venue.
Yeah.
Because she bitched about me so much, I got work out of it.
You got the gig. You took a negative and turned it into a positive. You know, you not only won the award that night, but you got a job out of it. Yeah. And I think that, for me, is what a lot of drag is taking the negatives in life, taking maybe trauma, taking pain, and channeling it through your creativity. You've had a lot of experiences in your life. You know, you've spoke to us about the army and your work as a dominatrix, which for me, not that I'm speaking from experience, but they seem like quite performative roles. I would say drag is obviously a performative role as that. Is there a link between all 3 of them? Is there a reason? It can't just be fate that you just happen to be these 3 things, you know, like it.
They're very separate, but yeah, they're all very performative. The army is very performative. There's lots of pageantry. Dominatrix is very theatrical. I love being a dominatrix. I've been doing that longer than a drag queen. It's one-to-one theatre, and I respect that space that someone comes in and wants to be an actor, and I'm the director, and we have that shared time together. And then being a performer, you're also being theatrical. So there is a link with this idea of performativity, or whether it be my gender, or whether it be my sexuality, or whether it be walking around in khaki. Oh, you know, it's
oh, the army. Sorry, I thought you were talking about the dominatrix. I was like, that was a weird gig.
Oh no more khaki.
No.
But yeah, I think just everything I've ever done has been by accident. I want to be a dominatrix. I want to be in the art. I want to be, you know, whatever.
It's interesting. Everyone I spoke to has kind of been like, it just happened.
It just happened. It just happened, and it just takes over your life all of a sudden. Every time you have a goal, they go through, you know, drama school or whatever, and they learn that discipline. And everything I've ever done, I've learned by doing. I've never had that. You know, I did a degree and something that I don't even do anymore, but it's informed everything else as I go along. And as a dominatrix, you are this fierce bitch. I am a fierce bitch. And as Holestar, I am a fierce bitch. And it's different elevated stages of that and how much this nonsense I'm putting on my face. Whereas, being Holestar is very fun and positive and glamorous. Well, glamour on a budget. Whereas being a dominatrix is another kind of thing. And I don't really I've crossed them over a couple of times when I've done, so I usually do a Rocky Horror Picture Show at Halloween, which I mentioned at the beginning. I keep getting booked for a Rocky Horror Show at Halloween. Perfect. And I brought in the dominatrixy stuff, doing that as Holestar. So I have crossed those over a little bit. Yeah. I try to keep them kind of separate, but they're all me. They're all
something inside you, aren't they? Looking back, is there anything, whether it's the army, the dominatrix work, your drag, that you would do differently?
I would get over myself a lot more. I think I took it so seriously, and especially with the crap that I had from being ignored for being a woman in this industry and knocking on doors and saying, let me in, hi, and people just going, no, 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 no. I took it very, very seriously. I took it very personally. And so the times I was seeing other people getting booked for gigs and I was like, well, why am I not getting those gigs? And I took it so seriously, it would get to me. I would not let it get to me. I would just keep on going. That's the only thing I think I would change, is not to be so, and just go, well, it is what it is. But to work harder. I think in 18 years, I've done a lot. I've performed around the world. I've performed from Cambodia to LA to all around Europe. I've been very lucky to do that, and I'm very grateful for the career that I've had and the opportunities that have been given to me. But I know if I'd worked harder, I probably would have had more. But then again, would I? Because of my gender, and that's held me back. The fact that I'm still here is a testament to my stubbornness. Yeah. That deep down, as much as I put myself down, I can put on a bloody good show. And so it took me a long time to accept that I'm good. Okay, I have a place here. I deserve my place here.
And there's still a lot of time left, you know. You have got, bones left. I know you've been doing 18 years, but there's still time. Is there anything in the future? Do you have any kind of pipe dream? I've used this with some of other guests. I would like a Christmas #1. It can be that wild.
I still want to. I released my own solo music, so I've released.
I love your music.
Oh, thank you. It's very camp. So I've released a single. I've released an EP. I want to release more music. That's the dream. I want to do a big disco power anthem.
Oh, great, yeah.
Because that's the kind of music that I really, really love. And I've got a big voice. And so finding the right producers to work with for doing that. I also want to write, might be writing something with a friend of mine that I can't really talk about, which I don't really want to be in. I want to write for other people. I want to do something that's outside of myself.
What about a book?
Do you know what? I would love to write a book, but who's going to buy it? I've not been on TV. I've not been on Drag Race. You would buy it.
I'd buy it.
There you go.
If there was a complimentary CD, I would buy that. Well, I'm so sorry to say that this is all we've got time for, but it's been an absolute honour to have you here. Thank you so much. The definition of a living legend. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your incredible story. So much love for you, and so much love for you at home. I've been Alfie Ordinary. You've been Holestar. You've been gorgeous. You've been fabulous. I want you to stay fabulous. I want you to stay safe. I want you to love each other, and I want you to love yourself. Bye-bye.